Hello and welcome to this special edition of ShiftNews. We will have an exclusive interview with DevX, the current and soon-to-retire developer of ShiftOS. So, could you explain why you've stepped down from the development of ShiftOS?
Okay, well, the issue I was having is that I found it really difficult to do other things in my life. The problem was every second of free time I had, which is pretty much only 3 hours a day, I would spend coding ShiftOS. So I'd come home from a full day of work at the centre I work at, because I am a early childhood educator, so I'd spend 8.5 hours there, half an hour trip, back home and stuff, and then straight on to ShiftOS, coding, and that would just take, forever. So there wasn't a break. It was work, code, sleep, and I was going insane.
Yeah, it sounds really tiring.
Yeah, also, as well, something else, what was it? I find, just coding in general, it gets me a little bit angry. The fact is, you can't just tell a computer to do something and it will do it without any problems. The computer's it's like trying to tell a person, okay, can you run 100 kilometers and you've got 4 seconds, go. The person can't do it. Like, the instruction's clear, but the person can't do it. Just like with ShiftOS, I'm saying ShiftOS, I want you, when you change a skin, I want you to quickly dispose of all these images, like all these graphics all over these windows. And it's disposing, but sometimes it disposes them too low. So the new skin loads, and when the new skin loads, it then disposes some of the new skin, and that causes red X's. One way that we could counteract that, I guess, would be to make, a pause on the skin load, so it says, applying skin for 3 seconds and stuff. But yeah, it just annoys me that coding is like that, where you can't just say, do this, and it does it. So I guess that's another reason. And ShiftOS never became as popular as I thought it would become in, a short period of time. Yes, I haven't really advertised it much, but at the same time, we're entering the era of the Oculus Rift, virtual reality and stuff. We're moving away from screen-based games, and I think it's going to be hard to make such a big game with technology that's starting to be abandoned now. Not really abandoned, but, less interesting for people.
Yes, and I also think you haven't exactly got that much content to advertise.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't have that much gameplay, it's just the skinning and basically an operating system without the gameplay aspect of it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, all you can really do right now, you've got Pong, you've got a bunch of applications, but those are only in the beta, so all those extra applications you can't even, work towards with BitNotes. The Appscape website is there, but you can't even use it yet. Like, yes, you can send money to your Appscape account with your BitNote wallet, but then I still haven't done the feature. What you would need is the downloader and an installer. I've actually got the downloader not made, but I've got the template for it, so you can start coding that straight off. But yeah, once the download is done, it's going to download into a downloads folder, and then with that, you can double-click the little file and an installer pops up, and then you've got the program. That's really all we're missing. You click the button to buy, deduct the code points from your account, not the code points, deduct the BitNotes from your account, and yeah, and then download, then install, and then, yeah, that's the general process.
Now that you're no longer going to be developing it, you said you're going to handpick developers to continue ShiftOS. Yep. Could you sort of explain more on that?
So what I've decided to do is, as you probably know, I developed a game in 2010 called Histocom, and in fact Histocom was my first ever Visual Basic project, which is a bit crazy because that's, it's not a beginner thing. Most people start off, well, okay, I did do a Hello World, but as soon as I did my Hello World, I was like, I want to make an operating system game. In fact, what it was originally, Histocom, it was supposed to be a Windows 95 simulator. So I was just trying to make, Windows 95. Then I thought, it'd be cool if, I added my own programs to this. Then I kind of did. Then I was like, I wonder, add a few websites. And then I thought, this could actually be a cool game. I'm like, time traveling between operating systems. So then I did that, and after a while, people were saying, it's actually really cool. And at that time, I was in school, and my school friends were like, well, I wouldn't even know how to code one of those little programs, like Survive the Day or something like that, let alone the whole thing. And then what happened? Oh yeah, and then I had issues with RSI and I had to stop development. Then like 2 years later, I was like, oh, I don't want Histocom to die. I may as well give away the source code. And when I did, like all these people wanted it. Like there was this person who I gave it to, and then they just kind of stole the code, made their own game. Then there was another person
Never
I gave it
happened.
to. They developed it for like 1 month, and then just it really got nowhere. And then they kind of split up, and that was that. So I know that with ShiftOS now, the reason I'm now going to make this a community-developed game and hand-picked is because I don't want to just give someone the code and they might, do
Just
something
take
for
it
a
and
month.
steal it.
Yeah, or steal it or make their own game out of it, like, rename it and change the names of a few programs, which you can do in ShiftOS anyway. So that's basically what I'm doing. I'm going to handpick people by first of all doing a competition, and now this competition is basically getting pretty much anyone who wants to join on the forum. They're going to try and make a game for ShiftOS. Now ShiftOS 0.0.8 wasn't actually going to have a games website, but I thought, oh, what the hell, I'll just do it anyway. So I think so far 5 people have tried to make a simple game. My favourite one of those is Dodge. That person's made Dodge, so they're very likely to be a developer, as you're likely to be one of the developers. And there will be a developer rank on the forum. Now, people with the developer rank get access to the developer forum, and the developer forum has most likely login details to the tourists SVN thing, so they'll be able to check out, and there'll be version control, that kind of thing. So basically, it'll start off with build 1, and this is Taurus SVN, it just does this. It's actually called revision 1, and then as soon as you edit something, it'll make a revision 2, and it actually stores every single... I think you need a server or something, so I'd have to set up some kind of server somehow for this. But it'll store every single revision of the software, so let's say someone mucked it up, one of the developers did something really bad, we can always restore it to the previous version. Like, say, revision 76 was bad, we can go back to 75. And what it does is the revisions, it doesn't store the whole of the code. Let's say ShiftOS code right now is 20 megabytes. It doesn't store the full 20 megabytes. What it does
just
is...
stores the bits that's changed.
Yeah, the updates. So really, when you're updating to the next revision, you're only getting a new, 500 kilobytes, something like that. Whatever's been modified, only the changed files will be updated. So that way you're always updating generally before you post your release of what you've done. You just do a little update to keep everything in sync. But the only thing about that is we'll have to make sure 2 people aren't working on the same program at the same time. So if 2 people are working on Dodge at the same time, we've got to make sure that you haven't written code and someone else hasn't written code, and then you try and put them up at the same time. That'll be a bit of a collision. So once you're done writing something, we'll have to try and manage on the forums, talk to each other and say, okay, it's Alpha Beta's turn to code this, it's William's turn to code this, that kind of thing. And we'll have a little development log. Okay, what do we want to have done by 0.0.8? And once we've done that, we can post out the next versions, probably even getting at least 1 beta every few days, pretty much how I was developing it before, depending on how the community develops, how fast they are. On the development forum, there'll also be a development videos section. Now, these videos will be videos I've made just to show how to do something. For example, how to add a new program to ShiftOS, how to infect ShiftOS with a certain type of virus, and so just videos of the main stuff. So, yeah, websites are actually pretty easy, but they work a little crazy in the way I program them because they're not actual websites. They're just made of Visual Basic code. So, yeah, it's crazy. Any other questions?
Will you still stick around in the forum even though you're not going to be coding it?
I certainly will stick around in the forums because I want to check out, it's like when you spend a year, almost a year is what I've spent coding something, I always stick around to see, what's happening with it, how is it progressing. Like, ShiftOS was actually kind of my dream game, so I want to see how is the community going to continue this, how is it going to go, like what will ShiftOS look like in a year from now after a community of maybe 8, I'm guessing like 8 developers for at least the first year and then maybe even 15 a year after that. I don't know how many there will be, but I'll definitely be checking up on it and seeing what builds, and when you get the full 0.0.8 out and all that stuff, because yeah, I do find ShiftOS an interesting game. Like, I wouldn't have started developing it if I didn't find it an interesting and unique game. So I'll probably be on the forums, not as active as I used to be, but I'll definitely come on there at least twice to three times a week at the, as a minimum, maybe once a night initially, to check out how everything's going. But it's unlikely that I'll be doing any more coding myself. I may do beginning things of code, like, for example, with 0.0.9, I do want to add a custom start menu system, and I've got the custom start menu system in my head, and I might just lay down the foundations for everyone to build upon, because I've just got, it's, when you've got a really good idea, and if I just can put that idea out there and show how it can be done, then the other people can kind of fill in the rest of it.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'll probably barely do any more coding. I'll mainly come to see how everything's going, but every now and then I might just lay down the foundation for something. One thing I may have to do in the developer section is I may have to give spoilers for the storyline I was going for. Of course, they're the developers now, and they don't have to follow the exact storyline I was going for, but I'll go into some of the secrets behind the names, such as Aiden Near and why he's got that name, what it actually stands for, that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
What's going to happen to the official ShiftOS YouTube channel?
What I will be doing is I will still... Okay, I'll post dev updates, but they will be from a perspective of me looking at ShiftOS almost as in I'm an observer and showing the new features and talking about who has been coding these features. Like, for example, I might say William has added the Dodge game to the ShiftOS Gamer website, whatever that'll be called. Such and such has made this program, and I'll go through all the new programs in each release and that kind of thing. But other people are free to document it. I guess if someone else wanted to make a dev update video, they could make it on the channel if they really wanted to, do that. Maybe get a bit of all the developers talking about each of their individual programs in a single video. So rather than me just going through it, maybe if everyone wants to make talk through their program, and then I compile it into one video, whatever people really want. Yeah.
So it's basically going to be like a no longer developer channel, but more of a fan channel?
I guess you could say that. You could say it could be a developer channel with the fact that there are going to be people, the developers of the game are going to be talking about the things they've made on it if they want to be a part of the dev update videos. But yeah, it won't be the official developer saying, look at what I've done. It's going to be the previous developer saying, this is what people are doing, kind of thing. Yeah. And the reason I can't quite give that YouTube channel away to someone else is because it's linked to the OS First Timer channel. So it's hard to explain.
It's all through the same Google account.
Yeah, it's through the same Google account. So.
And I have one question from the community. You've kind of already answered it, but it just says, what will you do with the source code from the latest one?
Well, that source code will be backed up, like on my computer, as a permanent, archive of the version I made. But the source code itself will be posted to the developers on the developer forum. But we're going to try and find some way. I know there's some Visual Basic Online thing, which is pretty much the way to go. The only issue with that online approach is that you're limited to 5 developers. You can't have any more than that unless you pay money, like a monthly subscription fee. But you can get it free if there's 5 or less developers. And I'm trying to look for the best way to, what would you call it? Have version control and give ShiftOS source code to all the developers so they can upload and download and stuff in a convenient way. If worse came to worse, what would have to do is the developer would have to, let's say it was your turn to develop, it would be your day, you would do whatever you want to do for your day, then upload what you've done, the next person could download it the next day. That would be the worst system, but it would be like, the one to fall back on if we didn't have any other way. So either we have a good version control system where we've got some system like Tortoise SVN going along and uploading and checking out that, or we do the worst system, which is the one person downloads the whole source code, then uploads the whole source code one day, then the next person upload, so giving everyone a turn each day.
That seems pretty slow, so hopefully
that would be very slow.
Version control system.
Yeah, it's a lot better.
Okay, and is there anything else you'd like to say to ShiftNews viewers?
Well, I guess something, if no one has, I'm sure everyone's read the post on the forum, but remember that the competition is still open. Basically, the idea is make a simple game. If you want to join, go ahead and join. Your game can and will be ported over to ShiftOS really easily. Literally, the porting over process takes about honestly, it takes about half an hour with the current system I've got going. It's not difficult to do. It's just annoying because every time you add a new program to ShiftOS, you've got to add lots of bits of code. It's a lot of copy and pasting code you've got to do, which is quite annoying. I'm currently on the Visual Basic forums looking at a way I can try and reduce this code so you don't have to do this every time you make a new program, so it automatically detects all the programs in ShiftOS and puts the code in by itself. But I'm having a lot of difficulty with it. It's to do with making a custom class that has an interface that can support. It's hard to explain, but there's a lot of stuff. I'm trying to work it out, but I'm struggling, to be honest. I may even get some of the other developers to look into it and see if we can sort something out, but that would make it a lot faster. If it was that fast, we could get programs ported from Visual Basic straight to ShiftOS in a single minute.
Thanks for talking.
No problem.
Being interviewed.
It's a pleasure.